Alright, welcome to another breakdown of the pound Japanese yen. Let's get straight into the chart. So for a few weeks we've been in this uptrend channel, and I mentioned last week that we're beginning to see some signs of slowing down in price, creating a small downtrend on the 1 hour time frame, trickling down, forming lower highs and lower lows into the bottom of the channel. So what I anticipated was that we may see a sell-off, a retest of the area as resistance, and sell off into 135, and so said, so done. However, I'd be honest, I did not expect us to sell off with one full weekly bearish engulfing candle, but we did. And as I always say, we take price action as it goes, so we capitalize on those sells for the entire week. So what I would do is I drop down to the 1 hour time frame and just do a brief recap of the kind of price. Now I took 8 trades for this, 8 or 9 trades for the entire week, and none of them were losses, so I'm really grateful for that. The market, I think that was the first time that ever happened to me, for an entire week no losses, so I mean that's good. So what I would say is that at no point, a really experienced trader at no point during this entire movement would have taken buys, because we're in a clear downtrend. Any bullish movement should be interpreted as a retracement for better sells down, right guys? So we created at the beginning of the week, I mentioned that we were creating these lower highs and lower lows. We were somewhere around here at the beginning of the week. We pushed down below this area. Look, we broke below the uptrend channel and retested the area as resistance, sold off, created a low. The bulls came in briefly but lost steam really early, and we pushed up into resistance at 138.50 and then sold off again, created a lower low. So you see, we have this market structure of lower highs and lower lows forming here, and we sold off all the way down into 135.80. Now if you, let's see, the full move was 553 pips. Now I'll be honest, I didn't sell here and held for the entire movement. I sold at around this area here, took some profits around this first support around here, then took another position, sold it down, then price pushed back up. Well, I closed off profits at this point, then price pushed back up in this area, sold it down, I believe till this wick here, then we pushed back up, caught another sell, so sold it down, and we've been functioning like that for the entire week, right guys? So that was a recap. Hope everybody benefited from my analysis last week. Now let's see what we expect for this current week. Now what I would do, to be honest, I am deleting my uptrend channel because this is no longer relevant. Now let's take a brief look at this without our areas of support and resistance, and let's see if we can get a broader picture on the pound. So the pound, this is the weekly time frame, right? So we've been forming lower highs and lower lows consistently for weeks, and it would show on the monthly time frame as well. So this was the most recent, on the weekly time frame, this was the most recent high. We pushed down into this area. We formed higher highs and higher lows for some weeks, well, could be a few months. Pushed up, but price was unable to push past this previous high region. We caught some resistance along this daily, which was previous support, which is now turned resistance in the most recent time. So we formed this strong bearish weekly candle engulfing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of price action. So that's more than a month of price action a one weekly candle has engulfed. Now what do I suspect may be happening? Now it's interesting to note that we formed a low, we formed a high, we formed a higher low, formed a higher high, formed a higher low at this region, formed a higher high, and we currently at the bottom of this bearish engulfing candle. Now, my bias is extremely bearish on this pair. However, I would just like to mention early so that you'll get an idea of how my brain functions within the markets. This is the most recent low on the pound. So provided that we stay above 131.80 thereabout, we could technically be in this weekly uptrend. Like just here where we got this strong bearish movement here, we've caught support at some area and then pushed back up. We could be in that same market structure. However, that is not my bias. I do not anticipate us maintaining this higher highs and higher lows structure on the weekly time frame. What I suspect is happening, just like here where we pushed up into this high and was unable to break above this high to our left here, and we had this strong bearish run to form a lower low because it was lower than this previous low. I suspect we are seeing that same type of movement coming into the market following this continuing this trend rather. So potentially we could be pushing down to create a lower low into like 122, but it's still extremely early to call that. So as I say every week, we take price action as it goes. So what I do anticipate, however, is that this week we could see a small retracement. Now, I don't anticipate us seeing a really big retracement all the way up into here and then selling down, although anything is possible. But the pound is extremely bearish. So we drop down to the daily time frame, and look at it. Every day since Monday, we've just been heading down. We got a brief doji candle at this point. Price push up, retested the high of the previous day and sold off again. So what I anticipate happening at this point is we could get a small retracement into like possibly 137.50 or even 138.30 around there, and then continue the trend down. But at this point, I really would like to see how the market opens on Monday, Sunday evening. If I bring back up all my areas of support and resistance, and we take a look at this on the 1 hour time frame. Now we have this downtrend line forming here. Now could possibly push up to retest this area, which was previous support at around here, retest this area and sell down further. We could even break out of this downtrend line, retest the trend line as support for sells, for buys up to potentially retest this 139.50 zone to then further sell it down. However, I'm uncertain if you could get that amount of bulls in the market to push price back up to 139. However, it's possible. I think it's unlikely. So we may see a brief retracement into 137 flat, and then see the bears enter the market headstrong and sell down. First, we need to break below 135.60 here about, and after we break below this area, we have clean sells. Let's see on the daily time frame. All right, on the daily time frame, if we break below our current area at 135.50, we could potentially push down into these daily wicks here. So potentially 135.30 is our first area of support, and after 135.50 we could be heading into 135 flat. If we break below 135 flat, however, we're heading straight down into 134.50 and then 134. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of price action we get at the start of the week, because that will kind of let us know how bearish we still are in this pound, because a lot of things would have happened over the weekend. So the market kind of needs to price in the news and the new information that has been coming in, right? So for me, I'm looking at this area, and I guess you could copy how my chart currently looks. So I have this, we're currently at this area of support here for a really long time, at 135.50. So if we could maintain this area as support, what I would be looking for on market open, if we push up above 136 flat, find some support along this region, we could see price push up to retest this zone at 137 flat to then further sell off. If we break above this downtrend line, I think it'll be nice confirmation for buys on a retest, seeing some strong support. However, I think that's unlikely, and I don't suggest that you try to take buys in this market unless it's a brief buy scalp up into this resistance. But from the time I see any signs of resistance, or even if we don't have the juice to push up to retest this area, we could just break below this region, and on a retest of this area as resistance at 135.50, I'd sell it down to the areas that I mentioned to you previously. So that's what I anticipate on the pound Japanese yen. This week went extremely well, but we kind of need to gauge the market and see what level of retracement we're gonna get to sell it further down. I really don't have like a definite idea or definite bias in terms of how high a retracement or the area I'll be looking for sales, but I mentioned to you what is possible and what I'm preparing for. So moving on to Euro USD. Now this pair has been, I'd say, kind of tricky at some level. I caught one trade on this pair, which was no, that's not true, not one pair. I caught two trades on this pair. I caught one sell for about 30 pips, and then I caught a buy after this extremely strong bullish movement on Friday, I believe it was. Or was my buy around here? I remember as we go over this space. So let's take a look on the weekly time frame. As we're still in this area of consolidation, I would leave all my charts, supports and resistance on areas on the chart. What I would mention is that last week I anticipated a bearish movement, right? But price was unable, well, we did break below the trend line, but we were unable to break below 1750, 1.1750. So if you were following, or you remember me explaining how it is I trade, I take my trades level by level, right? So from the time you see that we are unable to break below, we've basically formed a double bottom along this area at 1.1750. From the moment we were unable to break below this region, I think that upon seeing a bullish reversal candle, buys could have been taken from that zone. So as you could see here, see this extremely strong bullish candle, which we would have pushed up. To be honest, if I were looking at this pair after seeing this strong bullish move, it wouldn't be on this candle. You see, after this 1 hour candle closed above 1800, and we saw price come down and form this area of support along this area, this was a really good, this would have been a really good buy entry to catch price up into 1920. But I didn't take that trade, so let's see what we anticipate for this week. Now, my bias is slowly shifting back into a bullish bias on this pair. However, As you could see with this daily candle, we got a really strong rejection after pushing up into 1920 thereabout. So we kind of need to monitor this pair and take it level by level. We've closed back above 1800, so technically this is still an uptrend because we've yet to break below the previous low area at 1750, 1.1750. So I think some caution needs to be had around this pair, especially as we're in the season of US elections and whatnot. So we could see this kind of indecision makes sense in the market. So what I would look for on this pair is the potential for us to be forming an head and shoulders pattern, right? Where this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and we could quite possibly be coming in to create the right shoulder here to form some resistance at around this point, to then further sell off, break below this area, retest and sell down, and continue the analysis that we've been retest this area and continue the analysis that we've been following for the past few weeks, right guys? So just something to note as well, and to be honest, I really favor this analysis. So if you could push up into 1950 thereabout and see some clear resistance forming at around this area, we could sell down and keep this head and shoulders pattern. This for me would be a really nice swing. I try to hold this if it turns out this way, hold this position and run it down. Gbpjpy Eurusd, this kind of mirrored Gbpjpy with a strong bearish movement, and I mentioned in the previous video that I anticipated us pushing down into the uptrend line, breaking it, retesting it as resistance and selling down. So said, so done. Now we've sold down so far down where I don't even have my any areas of support and resistance for this these levels down here. So just briefly, I would show you all the areas of support and resistance to the downside that I'm seeing. So we have the top of this wick at 1.2816. Then we have this area, these candle bodies here, of which we formed a low last week Friday, I believe. After that area, I think we have this area here, that's 1.2650. And how I got that area is because if you look left here, we pushed up into this zone twice and retested it as resistance. So now this area here would be a strong area of support. Coming down to the downside, if we push it down again, we have this area here, because on this if you look left, we were retesting the area as resistance. We pushed up and retested the area as support, and we got some support to push up from there. And also we have this area down here, which I marked off last week at 123 flat. 123 flat. So just like the pound Japanese yen, I anticipate us getting some form of retracement, possibly to retest 1.3 flat, and then we could sell this pair down to retest any one of the support that I previously mentioned. Now we have no idea how strong a retracement would be, and honestly, after seeing this extremely bearish movement, we could just continue pushing down on market open, get a brief push from a daily/weekly upper wick, a very small one, and then continue to sell down. Conversely, we could sell up and get a full retracement of this move and retest around 1.3 flat to further sell down. So we just kind of need to wait and gauge the market to see what happens. But we're really grateful that price has followed our analysis from last week. And if you look at this, we have this kind of trend. Look at this trend line here that we've broken. This would be a daily trend. We've broken the trend line. We've potentially already retested the trend line with this with Friday's daily candle at around this area, but we could push up and get a deeper retest this week and then further sell this down. We're unsure what level of retracement the market is gonna give us. However, we're prepared for anything, right, guys? Let's look at pound Australian dollar. Now this, I'd be honest, I scalped one sell on this pair, but I wish I was paying attention. Somebody else brought this pair to my attention during the week. They messaged me and asked me about this pair, and by the time I looked at the pair was already in this really sharp, strong downtrend. Now, of all the pairs, I think this one moved the most because all pound pairs were bearish last week, but this one moved 760 pips, which was like, that's crazy movement for 1 week, I'd say, right, guys? So this pair has been in a downtrend for some months, forming higher highs and higher lows. We kind of had some signs of a reversal at this point, but given how bearish the pound has become, we were unable to continue this trend, and we've sold off and formed a lower than the previous low. Now, where are we on the macro level? As I have no areas of support along these regions. So we have an area of support around there. That area of support seems to be at around 1.7550 thereabout. Then we have another area 1.7480 possibly. Then we have another area down here at 1.7300 flat. 300 flat, and after, if we break 1.700, 300 flat, we're coming into 1.7200. So we kind of need to gauge these pairs, right? So what could happen, and what I think is likely to happen, if we could maintain a close below 1.1700, we could form some resistance around this area, which would be retesting the previous low as resistance. See, this was support here on our left. We could retest the area as resistance and continue this downtrend down. Conversely, if we break back above 1.1700, or let's, to be safe, if we break back above 1.7850 there, about this region here, we could catch some buys up to retest this broken zone. However, I don't anticipate that level of bullishness in the pound across the board unless we get some intense weakening of the Australian dollar. We would be maintaining this higher highs and higher lows on the macro on this pair. Briefly, if we take a look at Euro Japanese yen. Now, if we look at Euro USD, we mentioned that we could potentially see the bulls maintain market structure within this pair, but you kind of get a better idea of that with Euro Japanese yen, where we close above the area that was previously resistance. If you look at this wick, this daily wick here at 125.60 thereabout, we managed to get a really strong close above 125.60. So we could see this next daily candle push down and retest one of these areas as support. I'll put in 125.60 as an area that I'm watching. We could retest 125.60, come down even lower and retest 125.50. And once we see some support around that area, we could buy it up after we've created this double bottom here on Euro Japanese yen. So if you drop down to like the 1 hour time frame, you might be able to see this a bit better. Look here, we created this bottom. We bottomed out at 124.43. We came back down and retested that zone twice, and we've been bullish ever since. So to be honest, I would like to say that if we close above 126 flat, I'd take this for buys up to retest the highs. However, if you look at this kind of price action here, we're still very uncertain on this pair. So we're basically pushing up into this area of resistance on the left here at, I'd say 126.20, and there's an upper area of resistance here at 126.30. So like there's a range, really small range here. So I think that our best bet, if you look here, this is an area of support. Your best bet for buys would be a complete push above 126.30, 33 thereabout. Find some support along this area, and that'll be a clear buy signal for me to catch this pair up to retest the highs at 127 flat and potentially break that and continue pushing up, right guys? What I ultimately do not want is for buys, I don't want us closing below 124.43. If we close below this area and retest it at resistance, I'd sell this pair down. But just generally, I just mentioned this for you guys, the pound is a lot better pair, has been a lot better pair to trade because of the clear bearish movement. Like, look at this messy movement. Now you could I mean, if I was looking at this pair, you could have caught some trades within this pair, but there is no clear direction. So we are in this big range of consolidation where, and well, to be honest, when price is consolidating for such a long time, you could anticipate a strong movement to either the upside or the downside. So I suspect that we would see that strong movement coming in to this week and the following week. So, but I do anticipate quite possibly the bulls on the euro, and to be honest, I think that that may come into play if we get some weakness in the US dollar. But given that we're coming into this election season, I think that investors may be viewing this as some strengthening in the US dollar. So I'm really uncertain as it regards to the euro, but I would be taking this level by level if I decide to trade this pair. Like, look at this price action in the zone here. This is like really messy. Not to say that you can't get trades. You can take some trades, 50 pips. You will be lucky and catch 100 pips on this pair, but it's not the best price action. So ideally, I suggest staying away from it until we get some clear price action. But I mean, if you see some support being held at an area and you take buys up, I mean, I can't argue with that, as it is holding a bullish market structure. Also, if I look here, there is potential for a kind of head and shoulders formation here. If I'm looking at this at a glance, where we formed a head at around this area, I mean, we formed a left shoulder, sorry, at around this area. We're pushing up, currently forming a head. We push down, and we could be currently forming the right shoulder for a sell down. So we kind of need to look at this as well. And I mean, I just glanced at this on a daily time frame and saw this pattern forming. So I mean, this could be it's highly possible actually. Why are we kind of seeing this consolidation in this area? So if we push up and we fail to break above 126.60 and you see some resistance forming just like here on the left, we could be catching this pair for some really nice sells down, right? And honestly, this wick here could already be the left shoulder, but I just say watch this area. So I would take buys if we get some support at along any one of these supports, but I'd take my buys up into possibly this wick here, 126.45, 126.60 thereabout. And however, if I see some resistance forming, I'd close out of my buys and look for some sells once we see some resistance forming around this area. If no resistance forms and we break out and we continue this uptrend, then you'll know we're looking for buys. So I hope this market update was helpful, and I wish you guys a really good trading week. So enjoy.